You're sitting by a fire 50,000 years ago, and the smoke stings your eyes. Every instinct says pull back, but one of your ancestors leaned in instead and breathed it in on purpose. There's no screen here, nothing to scroll, no reason on earth to want a lungful of smoke. And yet that strange little choice is the start of a habit that still has a grip on us today. Because when you say it plainly, smoking is a genuinely bizarre thing for an animal to do. You are sucking down the fumes of a plant that is on fire. No other animal chooses that. This is the story of when humans started smoking. And here's the part almost nobody tells you. The habit itself is young. The trap that made it possible is unbelievably old. It starts about 1 million years before any human ever touched tobacco. Because smoking feels like a straightforward invention. Somebody, somewhere, decided to set a plant alight and breathe it in. But an invention needs somewhere to land. And the honest answer is that your body was set up for this long before the plant arrived. So let's go back to the fire, where the whole thing actually begins. The oldest solid trace of humans using fire comes from a cave in South Africa called Wonderwork. Deep inside it, researchers reporting in the journal PNAS found burned bone and plant ash from roughly 1 million years ago. And the crucial detail is that this stuff was burned right there, not blown in by a wildfire from outside. That makes it the earliest clear sign we have of fire being used inside a shelter. Fire that people brought in and kept. Here's a good habit to keep through all of this. Separate what was actually dug up from what we think it means. What they found is microscopic layers of ash and scorched bone. What they conclude is a tended fire. Usually a safe leap, but it helps to know which is which. Then, at a waterside site in the Middle East called Gesher Benot Yaakov, the fires start to look deliberate and repeated. About 790,000 years ago, the burned scraps there cluster in the same few spots, again and again. Those repeated spots are hearths. Somebody kept coming back to tend the same fire. The burned bits include wood and seeds from edible plants. So they weren't just warming their hands, they were cooking. Now, I have to be honest about these dates because the science is honest about them. These very early fires might have been rare and lucky, not an everyday habit. Plenty of researchers think fire only became a routine, every single night thing much later. Somewhere around 400,000 to 300,000 years ago. So the fire was a slow burn, if you'll forgive me. But once it truly caught on, it changed everything about us. Cooking on that fire pulled far more energy out of the very same food. And that mattered more than it sounds. A brain is horribly expensive to run. Cooked food helped pay for the big, hungry, clever brain that makes you, you. One well-known idea even argues that fire is the thing that made us human. So the fire became the middle of the entire human world. It was the kitchen. It was the heater. It was the guard against the dark, and the one place worth being after sunset. Before fire, the night was just dead time. You sat in the black and waited for morning. Fire bought us the evening, and the evening is where people gathered and talked and passed the long hours together. For hundreds of thousands of years, this warm little circle was the center of your life. And here's the thing we always forget about that cozy picture. Sitting by the fire also meant sitting in the smoke, every single night. Your whole species grew up breathing it, and that smoke was not a gift. In a closed cave, it could build up into a real hazard, and researchers can still measure the pollution it left behind in the ground. The smoke hurt the people breathing it. It's even been tied to the spread of certain diseases in our crowded, smoky shelters. So evolution had a long, nasty problem to chew on. See, wood smoke is loaded with harsh chemicals. They belong to the same family of tar compounds that make cigarette smoke so dangerous today. They damage cells, and over time, they can cause cancer. And your ancestors took small doses of these compounds constantly for a very long time. When a poison shows up every night for 1 million years, there is real pressure to get better at handling it. And this is where the story takes a genuinely strange turn. A study in the journal Molecular Biology and Evolution looked at a tiny chemical switch inside our cells. It's the switch that decides how hard the body reacts to exactly those tar chemicals. They compared our version of that switch to the version carried by Neanderthals, and ours turned out to be somewhere between 150 and 1,000 times less sensitive to those toxic smoke compounds. Now, a caveat before we build on that. That result is real, but it's still argued over, and other studies say the true picture is messier than one clean switch. Still, at least one piece may have been quietly falling into place. Our line was learning to sit in the smoke without falling apart. But hold that thought, because tolerating smoke does not make you crave it. You could put up with a campfire for 1,000,000 years and never once want to breathe a burning leaf on purpose. Not once. So the second piece of the trap isn't in your lungs at all. It's in your head. And oddly enough, it has nothing to do with fire. Your brain runs on chemical keys and locks. One of its oldest signals uses a little messenger your body makes for itself. It runs your muscles, your focus, and your sense of calm. And this messenger is so ancient that even insects run on it. Hold on to that because it's the whole twist. Nicotine is a plant's weapon against bugs. It works by jamming those same locks, and its entire trick is that it happens to be shaped almost exactly like your natural key, so it slides right into the locks your brain built for its own messenger. Studies of how nicotine works describe it switching on the brain's reward centers, and it releases a flood of the feel-good chemical everyone has heard of, dopamine. Now here's the truly cruel part. That reward system is hundreds of millions of years old. It was built for your own body's signals, for food, for safety, for each other, never for a plant. So when the fake key turns the lock, your brain gets a message it simply can't help but trust. A huge reward has just arrived. Something wonderful must have happened. Except nothing wonderful happened. Researchers writing in the journal Science call this a false signal of a benefit, a reward the body never actually earned. And that false signal is the hook. Do it enough, and the brain rewires to expect that key. It turns down its own locks to balance the flood, so the ordinary pleasures of life start to feel a little flat. Take the key away, and everything feels wrong. That gnawing, restless wrongness is what we call craving. There's one more twist that made this stick. Sharing the smoke around a fire was social. It marked a pause, a ritual, a moment of belonging. So the habit didn't just grip one brain at a time. It traveled through whole groups, wrapped in warmth and company. Now, some scientists push back on the word trap. They point out that the brain may be trying to manage a poison, not just get fooled by it, since nicotine really is bug poison first. And that argument is genuinely worth hearing. But both sides land on the part that matters for us. The weakness this plant walks into is far, far older than the plant. So look at what 1,000,000 years by the fire quietly assembled. Fire at the dead center of human life. A body that could sit in smoke. And a reward lock just waiting for the right-shaped key. Every single piece was in place. All that was missing was a plant whose smoke happened to carry that one particular key. And eventually, people found one. Tobacco didn't invent this addiction. It walked into a trap that fire had spent 1,000,000 years building, and it fit that trap perfectly. So when did people finally pick up that plant? The oldest hard proof, uncovered by archaeologists in 2021, sits in an old fire pit out in the Utah desert, at a place called the Wishbone Site. In that ancient hearth, researchers found 4 charred seeds of wild tobacco, roughly 12,300 years old. It's the earliest solid sign of humans using tobacco anywhere on Earth. Back then, this desert was a cool, wet marsh. They named the spot the Wishbone Site for the duck bones in that same fire. And the wild tobacco they used still grows out there today. Now get this. Those charred seeds are about 9,000 years older than the oldest smoking pipes anyone has ever dug up. For most of that gap, we honestly can't be sure how they used the plant. Maybe they chewed it, maybe they burned it. The pipes, the hard proof of actual smoking, only show up around 4,500 years ago. So zoom all the way out. Against 1,000,000 years of fire slowly building the trap, all of human tobacco use is the last little sliver of the story. Which brings us back to you, and it's gentler than it sounds. If you've ever tried to quit something like this and found it brutally hard, that isn't some flaw in you. You're running very old software, a reward system built for a wild world, sitting in the same kind of smoke your ancestors sat in for 10,000 generations. The habit isn't a modern accident that came out of nowhere. It's the meeting point of the two oldest things about us, our love of the fire and the wiring underneath it. None of this makes smoking safe, and none of it makes it clever. Knowing why the trap works is simply a fairer way to look at anyone caught in it. The deck was stacked a very long time before the first match. The sting of that smoke in your eyes and the pull of the habit that smoke can carry are the same old story. One of them is just 1,000,000 years older than you ever thought.